Hey guys, today we're taking a look at Instagram and social media in general and the ways in which you can tailor your content to achieve a more immersive experience for your followers. It's 2019 and it's very easy to see that a lot of social media is being consumed as it has become an essential part of our lives. It's no secret that majority of this media is consumed on our smartphones because that is simply the most convenient way. Your smartphone is always with you wherever you go. Today we're going to be taking a look at Instagram in particular because, well, IG is one of the biggest social media networks out there and arguably one of the best. Instagram is unique in that it is a purely visual sharing experience that is entirely focused on just photos and videos. And as smartphones get taller and taller, it seems as though social networks like Instagram are now pushing for a very different viewing experience from what we've grown accustomed to in the last 20 or so years with widescreen content and video. So what are the best aspect ratios for Instagram? I personally never even worried about this up until recently when I went through some of my old posts and just outright realized that some of the images and videos just don't look immersive and eye-catching enough. And to be honest, this has nothing to do with the content itself, but how it is presented to the audience. Most of my old posts just weren't taking advantage of all the space available on the display. If you take a look at some of the biggest influencers on the platform, you will notice that they've all started tailoring their content so that it suits Instagram. The main two reasons you want to crop and have your images in the right aspect ratio is to 1. Use all the space available on the cell phone display effectively, and 2. By doing that, getting rid of any other distractions that will be otherwise viewable at the same time as your content. So in other words, you want to use all the space on the screen so that the audience is fully immersed in your content and only your content at any one given time. Using the right aspect ratio also means that your viewers aren't forced to rotate their screens to landscape just so they can view your content. For images, this is very straightforward and easy to do. I suggest starting to experiment with vertical compositions whenever you're taking photos. And for landscape photos, be prepared to crop into a more squared aspect ratio as opposed to a horizontally rectangular one. A very basic rule that you want to follow is to not post anything that is wider than it is tall, because you'll be leaving a lot of space on the display. The 3 main aspect ratios that I've come to realize work best on an 18:9 display, which is basically what every smartphone has now, are a perfect 1:1 square, 2:3, and 4:5. Now it's important to point out that for any regular post, Instagram will always allow a tallest crop of up to 4:5 for any content, whether it's videos or stills. The 1:1 square goes all the way back to classic Instagram. It gives you equal space in both vertical and horizontal directions and allows you to get the most horizontal area out of the 3. 4:5 gives you a slight bit more vertical area, and I think this is the sweet spot that a lot of popular Instagrammers use because it's just tall enough to utilize that display area, but also not quite as old school as a square aspect ratio, which was ideal for the smaller older gen smartphone displays. I like 2:3 a lot because it gives you a good immersive experience on an 18:9 display, basically filling up majority of the screen. Now I have seen quite a few creators doing 9:16, which is just a widescreen video flipped to its side, and personally I do not really like this aspect ratio because it looks pretty awkward. It's so tall that you basically feel like you're peeping through a slightly open door. There's a lot of horizontal area lost here. It's also very hard to compose for such a shot because even if you shoot vertically with a portrait orientation, you quickly realize that you will have to cut out a lot of the size of the image. This doesn't quite do it for me. It looks very strange and it's hard to imagine any content that can take advantage of this except really tall and slender objects. Now it is important to note that for still images, Instagram will max out at 4:5. So no matter how tall your aspect ratio is, Instagram will automatically crop to 4:5. So for images, 4:5 is the bread and butter for IG, and that's the crop you should always have in mind when shooting. 1:1 is also okay, but not the best. With the introduction of IGTV, videos can now be posted in a variety of aspect ratios, including the super tall 9:16 and 2:3 mentioned earlier. 9:16 will in many cases fill up your screen or leave very little free space. However, for me, this is not an aspect ratio I would want to use. It works best for content that has been shot vertically, like if you're shooting straight off your smartphone, but for videos that have been produced in traditional aspect ratios like 16:9, it's very difficult to crop an image that tall out of a widescreen shot. But if you absolutely have to, then my advice is to export in a resolution of 1080 by 1920 for the best quality. H.264 is also my recommended codec simply because Instagram will compress your video irregardless. This codec will help you save space on your smartphone whilst maintaining a good enough image quality. An aspect ratio of 2:3 is what I recommend for IGTV because I like that it's tall enough to use majority of the screen real estate, but without feeling too awkwardly tall and compressed horizontally. In your editor, you want your resolution to be 1080 by 1620 and exported in H.264 once again. For a 4:5 aspect ratio, you want your resolution set to 1080 by 1350 pixels exported in H.264. You can already see that 4:5 gives you a little more horizontal room than 2:3, which can be more desirable depending on the video. Finally, 1:1 will give you the most horizontal screen area, but it will also leave tons of unused space at the top and the bottom of the display. For a 1:1 aspect ratio, you want your resolution to be 1080 by 1080 pixels exported in H.264 once again. I think that for IGTV, 1:1 should only be used in those scenes that you absolutely need the widest possible aspect ratio. It's always a good practice to watch through your video before exporting so that your subject is always centered in the image. This can be done by adding tracking keyframes throughout the video. Because trust me, if you don't, there will always be something that's cropped out or framed weird. My advice for a lot of the shots is to shoot really wide and perhaps a little bit wider than you generally shoot so that you have the freedom to zoom in and make digital camera movements in post. So there you have it, folks. That is how you can tailor your content for Instagram to get the very best out of the platform. To conclude, we have discussed that for normal posts, Instagram will only allow a tallest aspect ratio of 4:5 for both photos and videos, which is the aspect ratio you want to always use to take advantage of all the screen real estate. Only use the square if you absolutely need to, and avoid as much as possible aspect ratios that are wider than they are tall. For IGTV, you have the freedom to use any aspect ratio you see fit, but the best and most immersive ones are 9:16, 2:3, and 4:5. 9:16 will fill out most of the screen and all of it on legacy devices. However, it will be very awkward to crop, and generally speaking, framing content for such a tall aspect ratio will be challenging. 2:3 and 4:5 are the most ideal. Use 4:5 if you need a little more horizontal area, and use 2:3 if you want a more immersive experience than 4:5. Thanks for watching, and I hope that this video has been useful to you. Please drop a like or a comment if you enjoyed the video, and if you didn't enjoy the video, just make sure you hit that dislike button twice. If you're new to the channel, then make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Catch you folks in the next one.